I have a motion by Mr. Clary and a second by Mr. Norman to amend the agenda. All in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the like sign. The amendment is added. And again, that is going to be added under other business on line 12 as yeah. So approval of the agenda. Is here before we I entertain a motion to approve the agenda tonight. Mr. Harsh has a motion. Ms. Jones has a second. All in favor of the approval of the agenda say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the like sign. The agenda is set. At this moment, if you would like to speak to the commission on a matter in this month's agenda, please sign in at this time over here on the form that's next to the mayor. If anybody would like to speak to any item on the agenda this evening, now's your time to please sign it. Okay, nobody's wishing to do that. We'll move on. Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to pretty much follow the same things I did at the work session. There are two separate grants that we've been working with, but we've been talking about for a couple of months. One of them was the Governor's Local Support Grant that was initially tied to COVID funding. However, at the end of the General Assembly, they took all strings off that and kind of gave it to the counties and cities as just straight up funding that they could use however they saw fit. That comes in over $700,000 to the General Services Fund and $273,000 plus to the Urban Services. We are also eligible for CARES Act grants, but we have to go ahead and spend that money up front, submit it as a reimbursement, and that is only expenditures that are specifically tied to actions as a result of COVID-19. So if we've bought PPE or cleaning supplies or anything that we can tie directly to COVID, we can submit that for reimbursement with sufficient documentation to meet the requirements of the state and federal government. There has been some confusion about the administration building status. It is open. It has been open to the public since July 20th. I'm sorry, so if you get any questions on that, the building is open to the public. The census has announced that they are stopping counting people on September 30th, so I would ask if you know anyone who hasn't taken the census, please ask them to do so. This is tied into funding for your schools, redistricting. There's a lot of things that are tied into the census. Companies look at your census to see whether or not you're a good location to build a new, whether to build a new facility or locate something in existing facilities such as Dollar Tree or something like that. That's one of the things they look at is your census numbers to see how many people are in a given area. And also, as I said, this is redistricting not only for your U.S. House of Representatives, but your state houses, state representatives, state senate, and also obviously the local districts and state and school districts. Earlier this month, I signed a proclamation honoring Colonel William James Gregory. He was originally born in Smith County, but lived a good portion of his life here in Trousdale County, graduated from Trousdale County High School, went into the Army Air Corps before World War II, eventually rose in the United States Air Force to the rank of colonel and participated in taking photographs over Cuba and sent those to President John F. Kennedy and got a personal letter from President John F. Kennedy, and I gave him a proclamation celebrating his 100th birthday. I had talked to the commission previously about a multimodal grant, which is we're going to submit to do sidewalks from where the streetscape project out here ended up to the intersection of McMurray and Broadway, where that new intersection work is going to be done in the fall of 2021. The initial phase is to submit a notice of intent, which we did that, supported it with the proper documentation. We have to then be accepted into the next round, submit an application, and we're waiting to hear back on that. And as we work through that, we would probably have to hire an engineer to go further in depth, and we're also been working with our rural planning organization on that. But right now, like I said, we're waiting to hear if we got into the next round or not. Also, I want to go a little bit further in depth in that item I asked to be added to the agenda about the Smith County landfill contract. Their solid waste board had voted to up their fees to $45 a ton on September 1st. Mayor Mason has reached out to their existing customers, also us, Macon County, meaning private contractors, anyone else they're currently doing business with, and has offered them a contract for 5 years to lock us in at $37 a ton. And as we get into that, as I said, I would ask the commission to approve that, giving me the authority to sign it with the concurrence of Mr. Butler with any changes we think need to be done, and we can negotiate with Smith County. So As I said, this would lock us in at $37 a ton for the next 5 years versus going to $45 a ton on September 1st. So, Mr. Chairman, that's really all the items I have for mayor's report this month. If anyone has any questions, I'll be willing to answer them at this time.
What are we trading now? Is it 34?
It's $37 a ton. We went up $3, I think, 2 budget years ago. And so this would lock us into our current rate, which would not require us to do any amendment to the budget or anything. But if we don't, and we go at $45 a ton, we're going to have to do a significant budget amendment to add line item to the paying the tipping fees of the landfill.
Are there any contingencies that go along with that? Are they asking for anything in return?
They are not, they're just offering their current customers that have been good customers to the landfill, they're just offering this opportunity for us to lock in at $37 a ton instead of going to $45 a ton. It requires nothing additional on our side, just keep paying the rate we're paying now.
You mentioned somebody earlier in the report that had a birthday. Somebody else has a birthday today too, I do believe.
Yes, I'm turning 40 years old today. Actually, on my way to administration building, I had to do some math and figure out how old I am. So, but yeah, today is my birthday, and I want to thank everyone who sent me well wishes, both at the administration building, online, and Facebook. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And it's certainly been an interesting day. Things have popped up. I kind of alluded to it earlier today. My office staff is whack-a-mole. Things you never expected to pop up and popped up all day long. But other than that, it's been a really good day, and I thank everyone for their well wishes.
We wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's move on then to item number 10, committee reports. And we'll just go over the ones that are highlighted. The steering committee met on August the 4th, and Dwight usually gives that report. But since he's not here tonight, Gary Ford is the vice chair. Gary, if you could give us some insights to the steering committee back on August the 4th, appreciate it.
Sure, I'd be glad to. August the 4th at 6 p.m. We met in the courthouse, opened the meeting, wide open the meeting, reviewed the minutes from the July 7th, 2020. We reviewed a couple items that we sent to the committees. I'll go over that in a minute. Items for the commission, we took a look at that. Emergency Communication Board, it was brought out by the White that Mr. Mark Wheeler had resigned, and that the appointment for his place would be Ms. Tracy Belcher. I've got a date on there, I think it was October the 13th to December the 31st. And also, it was discussing on the judicial commission, which I don't know if we're doing that tonight or not. Other discussion is office space for commissioners to come in and do work here at the courthouse. That was also discussed and sent over to the budget and finance. And one other thing that was sent over to them was actually sent to the judicial committee was the homeless person that we have in perspective, and that was sent to the law enforcement committee, and I do not have a report as to what happened with that. Other than that, we had public comments, which there weren't any. We discussed coming up on the agenda for tonight. The only thing at that time we had was rezoning coming up with public hearing and second readings. And that's basically what we covered.
Any questions of the steering committee?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'll follow up with a question on the homeless individual and the gazebo. We did go to court on that on August 20th, and given that this is still an open legal matter, I'll turn it over to Mr. Beller if he wants to answer any questions on that.
Effectively, we have a court order that includes her from one of the gazebos in that region of Hartsville, Tennessee. There are other some legal issues that are involved in that deal. Effectively, we got the relief we saw. recommended these places in order down. I feel like it's satisfied what we need to do. In any situation, this is a concern, someone from something, zero, couldn't contact. Still patient with the problem, we'll have that.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that, because I've been getting several comments from local people that wants to move.
Now, I've got several questions as well, that the Supreme Court has recognized that the homeless individuals have rights, and we have to follow due process of law if we are going to remove them. That's what we were trying to do, make sure we dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's, and make sure we respect her constitutional rights. And I have gotten a question about the state legislature passing that no camping statute at the legislature. That will be looked at under a First Amendment analysis, not an Eighth Amendment, which is what they look at for homeless individuals. Since that is dealing with people that are out there protesting, that would be a completely separate analysis from homeless individuals, which are looked at under the Eighth Amendment, and actually look at it under the cruel and unusual provision of the Eighth Amendment. And that's, some courts have held, especially the Ninth Circuit, the United States Court of Appeals, have held that you cannot force a homeless individual off of public property unless you have a shelter for them to go to. Now, that is not our circuit, we're under the Sixth Circuit. However, the United States Supreme Court did deny appeal of that, so that's a pretty strong statement to me, and that's why we want to make sure we've done everything we were required to do under the law to make sure we met our responsibilities, and so that's why we took the route we did.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions on that topic, I'm going to move on to budget and finance. Jerry, that's you again, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make that report. Meeting was open on August the 17th at 6 o'clock at the courthouse. We reviewed the minutes of the July 20th, 2020 meeting. They were approved. We then covered the county financial summary and the trustees report for July, which was very good. No complaints, not a whole lot of discussion there. It was approved. We looked at a couple of budget amendments that's on your agenda for tonight. COVID PPE and supplies for $5,000, and one for the helmet service for $6,210 for supplies. Both were approved through the budget and finance and sent over to the court for discussion tonight. There was a considerable amount of discussion on replacing the windows in this courthouse. A very costly event, much as $130,000, and I believe this is an old bid, so maybe it would be more, and the installation figure of $10,000. So you're looking at $140,000 to $150,000. And I think where that's left is to go back and get that submitted to us so we know for sure what it's going to cost, and that'll probably come back to us next month. And I don't believe we had any public comments, and we adjourned that meeting to the workshop.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got a follow-up on the issue about the windows for the courthouse. I said I would reach out to the Greater Nashville Regional Council. I did. They have a historic preservation specialist on staff. We are probably going to have a condition assessment of this building done, because the United States Department of the Interior requires if you're going to replace the windows in a historic building, it needs absolutely necessary. Otherwise, they want you to repair and reuse the existing windows based on historical accuracy, and that the materials you get are not the same as what you're going to get today. So I'm actually supposed to have a Zoom meeting with them on Wednesday to go over that. But the strong, very, very, very strong recommendation of both that historical representative from Greater Nashville Regional Council and a member of the staff of the Tennessee Historic Commission is that we have a condition assessment done on the building.
Okay.
That should be considerably cheaper too, to come in and basically bring them up to date, I guess, to put in wood wherever it's necessary. Shouldn't cost no more near what we're looking at to buy new ones.
No, if we can reuse the existing windows, it'll be significantly cheaper. The condition assessment, I don't know what that's going to be just for this building. We did have a company that gave us one probably about 8 or 9 months ago. to do an assessment on the courthouse, the ambulance service building, and the Old County Health Building, and their rate was $18,000 for all three buildings. So I expect just for this building, though this one probably have more of a historical bent to it, so it might be a little bit more. I hate to throw a number out there just because I don't know, given the nature of what this assessment's going to be. We did have one done on the building in 2005, and most of the items on that, there were major items were done with the help of the downtown restoration or renovation committee, especially the courtrooms, the roofing, and other items like that. And the representative from Tennessee Historical Commission has recommended that when we do this assessment, let's look at what got done on from the last assessment, what needs to be done now, and then use that to come up with a renovation plan for the building. And they are also going to help me with possible grants that might be out there. They mentioned one that opens up in January for about $30,000 to $35,000. So they said there are grants out there to help on certain preservation work on buildings, and as we go through that process, hopefully we'll learn more from them, and they'll be willing to help us in any way they can.
Any other comments or questions for budget time? Let's move on to codes and zoning enforcement.
The code and zoning met on August 11th. We met up there at 7 p.m. on that meeting. Of course, code and zoning only meets as necessary. This meeting is called into the steering committee had asked that we need to look at adopting the new code changes for our commercial and residential building code. So that's the reason for this code, this meeting being called. The meeting prior had been on January 2nd, so it's been a while since this meeting gone together. Of course, we started off by adopting those meetings, open the meeting, and then accepting and approving those minutes from January 2nd. Business then moved straight into the discussion on the updating the codes. So kind of give you a little bit where we are. Trousdale County is currently on the 2012 codes, building codes, and those are every 6 to 7 years you must make an adoption in that case. So we're in that 6th year of time. We're past that 6 years. We're waiting on the adoption those actually in 2000. Anyway, we're in our window where we have to start looking at adoption. So we did. Sam Edwards was here at that meeting and is part of that meeting. Sam has spent quite a bit of time going through the new codes and pieces and what the state is asking to break or allowing communities to exempt, I guess you could say, and what they're lacking in that part. So we started going through that part. Sam presented it in 2 ways, with the commercial side and then with the residential side, 1 and 2 family dwellings. The committee did not reach any final discussion on the committee did not reach any final discussion on that part. We are waiting on a Sam to bring 2 more weeks to we'll set a meeting in September to continue that discussion. I will say we have some members of our public and some of our contractors come out and stuff. I appreciate that you feel they were willing to do that meeting. We are looking at the 2018 code. They've been adopted. I know 2 years back, I had to learn it myself. So you go 2 years, it took about 2 years since this code was written, the state to go through the codes and determine what they wanted to, allow Tennessee, remove or redact from Tennessee's codes. So that gives us a pretty good run there of what was the code of zoning, I guess it was. Sorry.
Any questions for code and zoning enforcement?
Sorry, one piece of that. We also discussed the communication, and we did all try to help out with this part of getting out the information that the codes passed back in January was the house numbering code that we put into play. So that goes into effect September 1st for all that we need to know. That's where at that point, I guess I think the rules are at that point that will impact we would start counting our days for the 100. I don't know the exact count, sorry. But that's the date of enforcement for the codes of house number.
Okay. Question.
The 2018 questions with codes, do those include sprinklers in the house?
So, in the 2018 code, there is a piece for sprinklers to be put at home. The state of Tennessee, according to Sam, this is not me, the state of Tennessee is allowing that they was fortunate not including sprinklers in your home. In residential 1 and 2 family dwellings, then it's not allowed in the commercial side of those 1 and 2 family dwellings. So that's probably one of the topics that's at that point. I'm glad you brought that question up. If Mr. Jordan been here already talked about, I was kind of waiting for the next time he was with us that he could talk about this, because he has been in contact, he has information, because he's been in contact with an individual with our state fire marshal's office, who has a trailer that has a sprinkler set up for fire. They're going to try, at this point, there's no date schedule, they're trying to get that worked out with the fire department, and they're going to set up a demonstration. I know they're going to ask all the commissioners to show up and see how that goes. So at this point, yes, it is part of that code. However, the state Tennessee has given an option to opt out and the sprinkler part of that code, the requiring well. So that's where one reason our discussion another week, or another month of conversation here.
Is it possible to make it optional to homeowners who start to build where it's applicable? Because in order to have a sprinkler system, you have to have a certain water pressure in order for that to happen. So most of the county could not do it, but inside the city limits, whole city limits, it could possibly be done.
So if I would address that part, my understanding in that piece, if we passed it, it would, no matter where in the city limits we would go through, and if you are in inadequate, as you're saying, water area, you have to purchase a pressure tank and add that pressure tank to your system. So kind of like the old well system, you might think about a pressure tank, which brings up that pressure we were talking about right there. So those comments came to question. There's some other pieces about insurance that we're still looking into. Some reports say it's saving insurance, some reports say it does not. You asked if it be optional. That is a discussion I think that Mr. Beller has been asked about, not yet. So as we go forward, that is a conversation that was going to be asked Mr. Beller, I thought. Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion of how much more expensive to add to the homes on the individuals buying their homes?
On the individuals buying the home, it was a $1 to $2 install cost, initial install cost. Now that's just the install of the sprinkler system itself. It wasn't estimated, it was given by Mr. Goulet, no, that's as far as I can think of. It was a $1 to $2 cost per square foot. I'm sorry. Yes. When I talk about building home, I'm also thinking per square foot, sorry. But that was, I guess, the conclusion of that conversation. It will be brought back up. Or anyone wants to come out, we'll be meeting some. We were trying to wait on this. The reason we have to set a date is we're trying to wait on a date for the sprinkler demonstration before we set that date. We'll give it a little bit longer, and I'm sure Sam Jerry will set that.
Okay. If there's nothing else on that particular topic, let's move on into communications.
Also, mine. So as we look forward to this days, communications went the same night, August 11th at 6 p.m. The calling of communications, we had started discussing back before our COVID sort of things slowed down and all those pieces about appreciating how much the mayor is putting his time to go to these meetings and put those out to our public. In other words, he's taking this upon his own opportunity to really make our system and the way we're working with communities and the way we're working with our commission to be transparent as we possibly can. I greatly appreciate that move that he's made. But in saying that, we were discussing, been in discussion about setting up a little better sound system, a little better video system for our public inside this courtroom. So that was to, in that committee, we actually, we looked at and discussed the BIS plan that was given to us back in January, which was a bid for a system here. It's got a lot of components in that system. And we actually had Mr. Lonnie Taylor come, and Lonnie had come and gone through, he works with digital sound and audio systems, that he came and walked through the courthouse here and kind of got a plan to give us some more understanding of what it would require to get this doing so that we could all hear. Lonnie had a really good point. I know we have some that are struggling maybe with hearing those pieces. I know as I'm amazing, my hearing is not as good as it was too. So as I'm looking and going forward with that piece, Lonnie stated that there was a lot of systems we could use so we could have headphones sitting in the back where the folks came in and it would literally, here it is, it's directed straight through. So there's some really good options. And speaking on that, as we went further, The decision was for the committee was we sent to the mayor to develop an RFP, request for proposals in order to get those pieces we're looking for. The mayor is working with one of our members, the committee voted Mr. DJ Lingle. DJ Lingle is a computer technician, I guess is a word we could use there in this case. He works with Metro National Schools. He's really good in my opinion when it comes to the technology world we're living in today. And we voted to allow him to be kind of our liaison, I guess you could say, between the mayor and in drafting that RFP coming forward.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we talk about like credit, your treatment with very math, like the way you live. I appreciate you do that.
I remember you saying that, and I appreciate the honesty, and I'm not going to miss you anyway, but I don't feel that I want to remove my mask in case I would be spreading something to someone else. It's not for me worried about you, but I don't want to spread something to someone else. I'm in the school system around a lot of kids, not saying it's there, but we don't know where we are at.
If you can't, if you can't, want to do it, it should not be here.
Let's look at this for a second. There's no more questions on that topic. I don't have any other highlighted departments or committees that have met. If I miss any of them, it's just because I just have to get a look at this in light of the White House meeting tonight. Any committee have met this past month that's not on this? I know steering, budget finance, code and zoning, and communication are the four that are highlighted. Anybody else? Okay. If not, then we're going to move on to item number 11, under active business. We do have an acknowledgement. We have a resignation under the Emergency Communications Board. It's Mr. Mark Beeler. If you look at your packet, you'll see that on August the 3rd. No, excuse me, 13th. Wayland Cochran, I'll offer my resignation to the ECD effective as soon as a replacement treasurer can be found, or no later than October 2020's meeting. That's according to Mark Beeler. So tonight, we're going to try to address that just shortly. That's the acknowledgement. So then, here we go. Under B, appointments, Emergency Communications Board. This appointment is to be considered by the commission tonight for Tracy Belcher. The appointment will be from October the 13th of 2020 to December the 31st of 2020. Yes, sir. I have a motion to approve Ms. Belcher. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Dickey. Any discussion on this? If not, all in favor of Ms. Belcher, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. She is appointed. Now, next in line, we're going to have a little discussion about this, and I know there's some questions about it, other appointments. The Judicial Commissioner position is up for appointment tonight. That's Mr. Lonnie Taylor, appointed by Judge Kenny Linville. At this moment, I'd like for Mr. Beller to kind of describe to us some of the information that he has attained about this position, because we know that there's possibly a conflict between both the Judicial Commissioner and the County Commissioner. So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Beller for just a couple of minutes.
There's a Tennessee Code Annotated section that includes a judicial commissioner serving as a county commissioner. It's conflict. However, not the role of a county commissioner yet. So as far as the first input goes, is this body free to appoint Mr. Taylor as judicial commissioner? The answer is yes. Now, I understand that the election in November, and that juncture, if elected, and or he continues to desire to pursue county commission, then at that point, there will be a conflict if he were elected. So we have to resign from that post. So my understanding is that I communicated this with Judge Linville, spoke to the commission, my understanding that he is commission. I understand that I also spoke with CPAS, Stephen Austin. Spoke with him, attorney with CPAS. He prefers without being also spoke with the consultant, Dan Rogers, who's got side of Trousdale County, who's also with CPAS. He too prefers without being, and the Tennessee Code Annotated is more than 111, and I think I got all of them. And the issue of whether or not you are ability to appoint Mr. Taylor to that. The answer is yes, you are.
So at this moment, I'm gonna go ahead and take a motion to approve of Mr. Lonnie Taylor. Mr. Burton, I have a motion, and Mr. Perry, I have a second on that. Any discussion on this before we take this to a vote? Yes, sir.
Is it interesting if he moves to try to do both? And does he realize it is not?
My understanding, I spoke with Mr. Taylor directly, my understanding is he's aware of that.
It doesn't matter until we do it.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Vote the man in, you can make it short to the event.
No, you should be talking to the word.
I talked to him, he said when he come down, but he heard me a council commissioner from the district. Like he said, he liked it, you know, everybody did it, he said, he still believes this, if you don't.
That did not until November, Mr. Judge Little said, we really need somebody right now.
We did.
Okay, so here we go. I have a motion and a second. All in favor of appointing Lonnie Taylor as your judicial commissioner, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. He is appointed. Okay, so that gets us to the appointments. Next, we're on to ordinances. We have both the public hearing and the second reading, so I'm going to handle these individually. So ordinance number 200-2020-15. It's a rezoning A1 to R1 on Honeysuckle for Kingsley. I'm going to open this for public hearing. Would anybody in the public like to speak on this? Anybody like to speak? If not, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Mr. Harris makes a motion, and Ms. Atwood takes the second. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. It passes. So now here we go. On to the second reading. Second reading for this ordinance once again, 200-2020-15, rezoning A1 to R1 on Honeysuckle. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Clary has a motion. Mr. Nauer has a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor of this rezoning, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the like sign. It passes. Back to public hearing again. Ordinance number 201-202016. It's a rezoning of R1 to R2 on Highway 25. Again, this is all in your packet, and we have discussed this in the past because it is a second reading. I open this up for public hearing. Anybody would like to speak to that? This will be your time to come forward. Anybody like to speak on this ordinance we're talking about right now? If not, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Ms. Jones has a motion. Mr. Gregory has a second to close the public hearing. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. So now we're moving on to the second reading. Ordinance 201-2020-16, rezoning R1 to R2 on Highway 25. I'll take a motion for that. Ms. Atwood, Ms. Jones, you got a second? Ms. Jones, okay. Any discussion on that? Yes, sir.
Chairman, point of order, you're taking a motion, but you're not saying whether it's a motion to approve or disapprove.
Okay. Thank you for correcting on that.
You're welcome.
This is to approve this ordinance. Any other discussion? All in favor of this ordinance, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. It does pass. Last ordinance here for public hearing is ordinance number 202-2020-17, rezoning A1 to C1 on Highway 231. This is the time for opening the floor for a public hearing. Would anybody in the public like to speak to this? Anybody like to speak? If not, then I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Bell has a motion to close the public hearing. Mr. Dickey has a second on that. Any discussion? Okay. All right, no discussion. All right, we're going to vote in favor or not to approve this ordinance 202-2020-17, rezoning A1 to C1. Do I have a motion? I do. I have one from Mr. Hart. I have a second from Mr. Ford. Any other discussion? All right, we'll be voting to approve this ordinance 2020-17, rezoning A1 to C1 on Highway 231. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. It does pass. Budget amendments. Now, item B, General Service Fund. It's 2021-101-01 COVID PPE supplies. Larry, would you like to talk about that for just a second?
Yes, sir. There is a possibility for us to purchase items related to COVID response, that be personal protective equipment, cleaning supplies, and whatnot. However, the comptroller's office has put out a directive of how they want that accounted for in the budget process. So we need to set up this fund to meet the comptroller's requirements, and what we need to fund this. So this would be coming out of, I think it's coming out of fund balance. I don't know if Thomas may tell me I'm correct or not. Okay, it's not a fund balance draw, but we have to have this set up to meet the comptroller's requirements, and then we can get reimbursed through the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, and this is just bookkeeping to get this set up correctly. So we would ask that we can go ahead and fund this. So first thing we're going to do is buy some masks to hand out here in the county. As long as we hand those out free of charge, we can get 100% reimbursement on the type of mask we're going to purchase. So we would ask that you approve that.
Questions?
Motion approved.
I have a motion to approve this. And a second by Ms. Apple. Any further discussion on this? Okay, we're voting to approve of this general fund for COVID PPE supplies. All in favor of this, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the like sign. It does pass. Under budget amendments, we have another 118 Ambulance Service Fund. It's 2021-118-01FB. It is a fund balance. Vehicle maintenance for $6,210. Mayor, you got any information for us on that?
Lou, this is allocating proceeds from sale of surplus vehicles to this line item. That was not allocated in the budget, and we just want to go ahead and get that done. Again, as a budget keeping is to allocate funds that the ambulance service receives for selling surplus equipment to this line item so they can purchase the equipment.
Okay. Any questions on that? Yes, sir, Mr. Burke.
Motion approved.
I have a motion to approve this. Do I have a second? Sam Russell has a second. We're about to vote on Ambulance Service Fund 2021-118. It is a roll call, but it is a fund balance. That's correct. William, you do that with the roll call.
Beverly Alvarez, yes. Mary Ann Baker, yes. Ken Buckmaster,
Yes.
Jay Burton,
Yes.
Gary Clary,
Yes.
Roy Hickey,
Yes.
Bill Ferguson,
Yes.
Jerry Ford,
Yes.
Bubba Gregory, Landon Dillon,
Yes.
Richard Marsh,
Yes.
Linda Johnson, yes. Richard Johnson,
Yes.
Rachel Jones, yes. David Dahlgren,
Yes.
Amber Russell, yes. Gary Walker,
Yes.
Steve Whitaker,
Yes.
18 yes, 0 no.
That measure does pass. I'm looking for another, and I'm assuming we don't have it. Okay, now we're going to go on to other business, line F. This is where we are to discuss the solid waste contract that was mentioned earlier tonight. Mayor, would you like to help us out with that?
Again, this is the contract that Smith County contacted us about locking into a rate of $37 a ton for tipping fees at the Smith County landfill. And if we do not approve the contract, then starting September 1st, we'll be charged $45 a ton. So.
Questions of the mayor? Oh, yes.
Is that just an annual contract or?
It's going to be a 5-year contract.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Make a
Walsh.
motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve, and I have a second by Mr. Gully. Any other discussion? We're going to take it to a vote. We're going to vote to approve this solid waste contract for 5 years at a lock-in rate of what we have currently, $37. Is that right, Mayor?
Yes, sir. It's $37 a ton.
Okay. All right, here we go. All in favor of that measure, say aye. Aye. like sign. It does pass. At this moment, it's time for public comment for anybody in the audience that would like to speak on any of the topics we've had tonight. Anybody like to speak? Ms. Burke, you know? Okay. Mr. Walsh?
Motion adjourned.
Have a motion to adjourn. Have a second by Ms. Johnson. We are adjourned.
Well, all right.